expanded and progressed over recent years and decades. When I was a child running around Sackville Street and the other streets and around the Bogside and so forth, equality meant only one thing. It meant equality between Catholics and Protestants. It had no other dimension at all. And that tells you something about the nature of society back then, the limitations that were on it. And the fact is that over the subsequent years and the intervening period, equality has come to encompass equality between male and female, between black and white, between the local population and those who have joined the local population from outside. And there is also, and most significantly it seems to me, come to embrace the idea of equality in relation to sexuality, equality between gay and straight people, and equality within the LGBT community itself. All these are great advances in our society that we sometimes just take for granted. And it's only when you stop and think about what an equality event would have meant in, say, 1968, and how much richer and more diverse and more representative it is in 2012, that you understand how much progress we have made into the centrality of the gay liberation movement. Someone of my generation still puts it like that, the gay liberation movement. How central the gay liberation movement has been to that advance in society from which all of us, all sections of society, have benefited so enormously. So it's right that this event should be sponsored by the Equality Commission. And I'd ask Milton of the Equality Commission just to come up and say a few formal words, if you would, Milton, to get the event up.
Unfortunately, unlike Eamonn, I'm not able to talk off the top of my head, so I'm going to use some notes here today. But I would like to thank you very much for inviting me along this evening. It's a great pleasure to see so many interesting and inspirational people, and also it's a great pleasure to meet some of my friends. The Equality Commission supports Foyle Pride, and it's great to see the community support for the event, how it's grown over the 3 years, and what a wide-ranging and inclusive programme of events you have for this year's festival. We have also supported the Belfast Pride event in August, and will be at the Newry Pride Festival, which launches on the 21st of September. This support takes the form of information stands at which we can gather useful information for our work, as well as give it out. We have a revamped area on our website, training, research, legal advice and support for discrimination cases, education and policy work. So, what are the attitudes towards LGBT people in Northern Ireland today? Well, it's a mixed picture. On one hand, our Do You Mean It, or Do You Mean Me survey, which was launched in June, showed that the only group to see a decline in negative attitudes towards them was lesbian, gay and bisexual persons, which fell from 21% in 2008 to 15% in 2011. So that's some good news. But the same survey showed us that when we get down to specific closeness to particular groups, over a quarter of people, 27%, reported they would mind a gay, lesbian or bisexual person living next door, compared to 14% in 2005, with 42% unhappy about them becoming an in-law, a rise of 13 percentage points in the last 6 years. And around a third of people, 35%, would mind a transgender person as a work colleague, rising to 40% as a neighbour and 53% as an in-law. This was the first time a major survey took place in Northern Ireland, and it has considered the attitudes towards this group. And all this tells us that there's still a lot of work to be done to break down barriers in our minds, to create a fairer and more equal society for everyone in Northern Ireland. There have been a couple of landmarks. Homosexuality was decriminalised in Northern Ireland in 1982, 30 years ago this year. The Commission took part in the International Day Against Homophobia event at Belfast City Hall, where a fellow colleague, fellow commissioner of mine, Fidelma O'Carlin, took part in a panel discussion to mark Anti-Homophobia Week. With her on the panel was Jeffrey Dudgeon, who successfully took the UK to the European Court of Human Rights in 1981 and set in train the decriminalisation of homosexual acts between men in Northern Ireland in 1982. That shows there has been progress and change in Northern Ireland, but there's clearly some way to go, as evidenced by the continuance of homophobic hate crimes. A recent story in the press has been the hounding of 2 young gay men from their house in Lisburn. This year, the Commission supported a similar case, that of Vincent Creelan and David McCauley versus the Police Service of Northern Ireland. The claimants were subjected to regular attacks in their homes in Newton Ards, and were most distressed that the PSNI did not take reasonable steps to prevent further attacks. They brought proceedings in the County Court alleging unlawful discrimination on the grounds of sexual orientation, harassment and victimisation, and claiming damages for injury to their feelings, and that case was settled. The police acknowledged that there had been serious shortfalls in their service and undertook to ensure that everyone, gay, straight, lesbian, bisexual or trans, has the support and protection of the law. LGBT people have rights at work and in the provision of goods, facilities and services. We at the Equality Commission believe it's vital to keep working to increase awareness across the board of everyone's rights and responsibilities. For example, today, the 22nd of August, the Commission worked with Derry City Council's Good Relations staff to provide a half-day's informal training on equality law and sexual orientation, policy and case law. Tomorrow evening, the Commission is working with Unison on a Your Rights at Work session with the LGBT sector. So if there's one thing tonight that I would like to remind you about, is to say that the Equality Commission offers free and confidential advice and information services. We have a telephone inquiry line, legal and other advice, information online and in print. We see fewer cases or calls in the area of sexual orientation than we would like to see, and I would encourage you all, or anyone you know who has suffered discrimination, you get in touch with us. Everyone is entitled to the protection of the law. That's what the Commission is there for. So finally, I would like to thank you again for the invitation this evening, and on behalf of the Equality Commission, I wish everyone well for a safe and happy Foyle Pride Festival.
Thanks, Malden. In general terms, one of the themes that has gone through Pride and the events of the week of Pride in recent years has been the extent to which the ideas and ideals which animate the gay community and its fight for equality and its place in society, that those ideas are not peculiar to any one community or section of society. I think those apply to all. The idea of solidarity, the idea of fighting for one another and standing up for one another. These are things which are of universal application in human society. I mean, in the old slogan, James Connolly's old slogan of, an injury to one is an injury to all. I think the last time that I was trying to quote that statement of Connolly's, I remember addressing a very large crowd and referring to the grand old Marxist slogan, and then I heard myself saying, one for all and all for one. And somebody groaned in the crowd, that's not Marx McCann, that's the Three Musketeers. Nothing wrong with the Three Musketeers, very dash. But anyway, son, I think I got it right this time. I don't know why I said that, except that it popped into my mind, and it was all by way of introduction to Laura, isn't it, who's going to speak for Hands Off My Friend.
Okay, like my son says, my turn. So no panic. I have nothing written, so I'll just tell you about this campaign. I am the coordinator of an organization called the Foyle Multicultural Forum, which is an organization that coordinates several projects, one of which is the Hands of My Friend campaign. The Hands of My Friend is not just an awareness campaign that tells us we have to love each other, we have to support one another, we have to protect each other, and so on. It's actually a campaign that allows people that witness a hate crime or a verbal abuse or any sort of discrimination, as well as the victim, to report anonymously about the incident. You can log on to the website, which is www.askmyfriend.org. You will find information about the campaign on the small table in the room, in the other room, and there are wristbands and little leaflets. The information go to our organization, and we then forward information to collect information for the organization involved in the campaign, for them to use it as they need it. So Foyle Pride is one organization that supports the campaign. If we get a certain number of every report we receive about a crime against a member of the LGBT communities, it's forwarded to the agencies, and the agencies then will use those information to deploy their resources to tackle the problem, either by designing education, or maybe having their people to patrol a certain area in which incidents occur all the time. We are, as individuals, the eyes and the ears of the community we live in, and it's up to us to take a stand against any sort of hate crime. It doesn't have to be, something terrible, someone hitting one another. It could be just verbal abuse. It could just be something, a joke, or something we don't like. We can go to the website as witness or victim and log the information about what we saw and make a difference. People don't feel confident sometimes to go to PSNI. If it's just a verbal abuse, people don't go to PSNI. And what happened to all those incidents? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. They fall through the net. They are not recorded. Nothing. Nobody can take a stand. Organizations like the Foyle Pride, in this particular case, can't make a difference because they're just not told. They just don't know. So you have the opportunity through this website and the anonymous report system to make a difference. And it's entirely up to you. This time we have got a choice and a chance to do something. So yeah, it's up to you. That's it.
I saw a little piece in one of our local websites or web magazines, whatever they are, those computer things. It's a bit of Facebook, and I'm not sure, I don't do Facebook. I'm not entirely convinced that this computer thing is going to catch on. Really. I read a little piece, a very friendly piece, about a Pride and about the guest of honour at Pride and their guest of honour tonight. And it referred to him as a person who had become a controversial figure when he came out a few years ago. And this showed admirable spirit, I suppose, and a positive attitude, but a lamentable ignorance of the reality, because in fact Donald Cusack was a controversial figure long before there was any question of him coming out. And indeed today, if you hear Donald being discussed in hurling circles, in controversial tones, you can be pretty certain that it's got nothing whatsoever to do with the fact that he came out or anything to do with sexual orientation at all. It's got to do with the fact that he was a visionary in relation to hurling and how the ancient traditional game of hurling, that is the only quintessentially Irish sport which there actually is. And aficionados of Gaelic football can take that any way they want. But it is sort of an ancient, very rooted, very, very deep, sort of in the history and in the soil and in the culture of Ireland. And that makes Donald a very important figure, makes him a very significant figure. And when he takes a stand on anything, it makes that stand very significant, because he's speaking from a place which defines Ireland and Irishness more than any other place in our imagination. And that's important, it seems to me, because, I mean, if you indulge me and allow me to say it seems to me that there's a huge contradiction in relation to gay liberation and the position of the gay community and gay sexuality in our society. And it's this, that on Saturday we will have thousands of people on the streets of Derry. We'll have a very colourful parade. There'll be smiles everywhere. Where last year and the year before and the year before that, and there always are. The whole town will be wreathed in smiles for the Gay Pride parade. And when gay people are celebrated, when you have heroes and heroines, and that's held up too, that's very significant, it's entirely positive. And you'd nearly think, if you stand in Shipley Street next Saturday and watch the parade coming past, and look at how people are responding to it, you might think, well, there's no problem there anymore, is there? Everybody's happy, everybody's positive. Well, these are one of the most popular sections of our society, and yet, we know from the cold, hard statistics, we know that young gay people are have a higher risk of depression, and higher risk of suicide than their peer group generally. In other words, even amidst all that colourful celebration, it remains the harsh and dark truth that there are young people who literally choose to die rather than confront society and society's attitudes and confront themselves within society. Now there you have an enormous contradiction, which is very difficult to grapple with and know how to handle. It does seem to me that it means or must mean that when we celebrate pride, we have to celebrate not in a sense of complacency at what has been achieved, but celebrate in confidence about the fight which still faces us in the future to achieve full equality. So that, it seems to me anyway, as a straight person, as someone who has been involved in all these various campaigns and this issue and others over many years, that's my sense of where we are right now. And it is for that reason that Donald Óg Cusack, from the hurling background and the hurling greatness that he represents, that when he stands here to launch Pride in Derry, he is sending out a message which is both thrilling and challenging, not simply, not only, or by no means even mainly, to the gay community, but to the whole of Derry and the whole of our society, of the need to make the spirit of Pride and the Pride Week every year, to make that the spirit of all of Derry for the rest of the year. The Pride Week every week. It's when we've achieved that we'll be able to look at all our young people, with all our young people with the myriad problems that assail them. They look at our young people and tell them that they can face the future, face inwardly at themselves and outwardly to the society around them in full confidence. Donald has played a major role, it seems to me, in advancing that agenda. And by his presence here in the Boy tonight and in Derry tonight, I think he beckons us all to the next stage of the struggle which will be necessary before liberation is finally achieved. Donald Óg Cusack.